Hello to those of you watching the recording.
See you later.
Have fun. Hello, Margarita. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm a little late this morning. Hi, Connie. How are you guys? Did you sleep well? Hi, Ashley. Hello, Michelle. How is everyone? Hello, Lori. You're up early. Grand Rising. Hi, Rhea. Hi, Chantal. I am in New York. Yes, indeed. Hello, Jordan. Hi, Maria. Hi, Leanne. Hi, Karen. I am not in a hotel room. I am at the location in New York where we're hosting the new class for Spirit Release Academy. So, I got to hang out with Jono and Andy the last 2 days setting up, and got to meet some wonderful new students this morning. Got to hang out with some of the people that follow the podcast, which is really, really cool. So, hi, JC. Hi, Anna. Hello. Hi, Heather. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Elaine. Hi, Marla. How is everyone? Hi, Summer. How was your weekend? Heather says the dream team is back together. Indeed, it's been wonderful hanging out with them and just setting up and spending a little bit of time with the group already. A couple people arrived a little early. So we have a house across the street that we're renting out, and it's going to be hangout central. So that's nice. Let's see how those flares have been doing. You guys been sleeping any better? Hope it's let's see. I'm wondering how things have settled down over the weekend. I haven't actually been checking properly. Oh yeah, it definitely settled down a little bit. There's the flares have gone down a little bit. You guys feeling a little better? Are we still going to have community convos on a star today? Yes, we are. Because they're in class anyway, so that's totally fine. We can do that. Who snores, John or Andy? I'm sure they both do. But we have a different place. We give the teachers their personal space, so we're not staying that close. But it has been nice just showing them around, and a couple of them have never been to America before, so getting to see the area is really nice. And spoiling them a little bit. I made like 4 pies before I got here, so yeah, it's been a really good weekend, and it's exciting to finally be back with a group of people that are interested in the same thing. You know, we're all here to chase beasties, so to speak. So yeah, you guys feeling any better over the last few days? Because last time over Friday, things were getting a little crazy energetically, and a lot of us were dealing with headaches and lack of grounding and a feeling of general funk. So I'm seeing if that has subsided for you guys. I've been feeling a little bit better, although it has been difficult to go to bed. I don't know about you guys, but I have not been getting tired recently. It's like the energies have really intensified over the last week, and it's like it's not that easy to fall asleep before midnight anymore. Oh, Erica says Siddhartha workshop was phenomenal yesterday. That doesn't surprise me one bit. I'm gonna have to check the recording myself because we were so busy setting up and getting everything ready. Amma says my attacks are finally over. That is wonderful. Did you have some kind of a revelation? Did you go to a healing? How did that go? Hello, Donna. Good morning. Lori says I couldn't fall asleep until after 2:30 this morning, and then I woke up from 6:30. Wow. The flares make a lot of us tired, Michelle. Those flares drain a lot from us. And It's also the upgrades, the light codes. I was doing some clearings over the weekend, and you wouldn't believe the amount of light codes that have been coming in for people. It's like an overabundance of light codes. And I didn't realize this, but if you have too many coming at once, it can really throw off your whole equilibrium. So there's a couple people that I have cleared that did have this. It's almost like an overstimulation thing going on. So that's part of the reason why some of us are having difficulty sleeping. But it does help if you have like a bath, visualize some grounding. I mean, I meant to say a sea salt bath because that'll help ground your energies better. Jessica says I'm in hibernation mode, especially because we have a cold front coming in. It has been quite chilly here in New York. My mom and Aiden in Pennsylvania have been telling me it was 80 degrees yesterday, and it was all nice. And meanwhile, it was like 50 here. So it was definitely not too warm here. Hopefully it'll get nicer over the week. Chantal says, super interesting Lost Soul Rescue. Was listening earlier, not finished yet. Did you get to the part where we cleared that one town? I believe it was called Freeview or Fairview. Fairview was the name of the town in North Carolina that we cleared. We cleared 88 earthbounds and countless animals from that area. There was a lot of people that unfortunately passed in that town. So if you guys go on Astara today, you can watch the recording. And you get to see my friend Leia in action. Leia is amazing. She's such a great medium. And so for those of you, I'll show you where you can find it. If you go onto the Mighty app, for those of you who have Astara, then you go onto the Mighty app, and then you go to Workshop Replays. Membership Replays, my apologies, Membership Replays. And you'll see there's a whole bunch of different ones, but if you scroll down to the third, there you'll see the Lost Soul Rescue there at the top. You see? And that is where you can watch the recording. That is Leia in that little corner wearing green. Leia is an amazing, amazing medium, and she channels a galactic soul guide named Constantine. And it was really, really fun to work with a group with Constantine as well, because we all kind of felt like we were involved, like our soul guides were actually helping doing the clearing, which was really cool. So for those who don't know, my Lost Soul Rescue group is kind of like a mediumship circle where we kind of get our feet wet with helping people with SRT, but not really focusing on entities. It's more about earthbounds. We help to cross people over. And there's quite a lot, if you guys have noticed, there's a lot of fine print when it comes to crossing over, because a lot of people think that as soon as you enter the light, you just go straight to heaven or to the upper astral. And we have found that when you have dealt with severe trauma or some form of deep confusion too, in regards to being murdered or having some kind of an overdose, people do tend to struggle to even cross over fully. It's like certain waiting periods can happen. If you'll see on the recording, it's very interesting how a couple of the people who have already entered the light have a waiting period, like a transition period, where before they're able to fully, I guess, raise their vibration up to that point. Because in my thoughts initially, like a year ago, when I started helping earthbounds, I assumed, okay, they went to the light. Ta-da, they're in heaven, or wherever you want to call it. But no, that's not exactly how it works for those who have dealt with something really extreme. People who were suicide victims, or people who were severely inebriated when they passed. That causes a high level of confusion. Plus, their vibration, I think, is so low, it needs a transition period to get to that point. So it's very interesting. I mean, this is, I love the fact that we are learning so much, but sometimes the things that we learn can be quite upsetting because things have been oversimplified for us in many ways, because like when we think about death, we just think about crossing over immediately and then we're in heaven, but it doesn't actually work that way all the time. And there's a lot of confusion as well, because people are like, where are their soul guides? Where have their soul guides gone? And many of them actually leave when you die, when you're deceased, because you don't need them at that time, or at least that is the general consensus, that when you're dead, you don't need a soul guide. So it's something that's quite upsetting to me at first, to have to relearn and unlearn things that I thought I knew. And I wish it wasn't so complicated, because that's part of what pisses me off about it. I'm like, why does it have to be so freaking complicated? Uh, so yeah, there's lots of fine print that we're starting to learn. And I almost feel like I should write a book on it, because there's just so much of it. Because people know all about being an earthbound, and people know all about going to heaven, like there's books about being earthbound, and there are books about when you enter the light, one of my favorite books, Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, or what's his name? Oh my God, I've had so many authors in my head the last few days. Is it Michael Newton? Anyway, I can't remember his first name. But Journey of Souls goes into what happens when you enter the light, and then you go to the heaven, you're in heaven. But there's a lot that's happening in between that we don't even know about. RJ says, are all suicides victims? Yes. I asked Chen this once, and I said, how many of the percentage of people that take their own lives had entity attachments that were goading them into it? Chen told me 100%. And that blew my mind. I was thinking it was got to be more like 90%, 80% maybe, because obviously you do get some people that are dealing with really bad trauma and things that are just from activities, just from living, that doesn't have to add to it. But yes, of course, this is usually what happens too, is that entities take advantage of people who have that mindset, who are that feeling that low. And it's almost like they kick them when they're down. So even though you may be struggling and having a hard time, you don't usually goad yourself to that point of actually doing it unless there is something trying to mess with you. There was a friend of mine that I found out on Friday had passed away from that, in particular, from taking his own life. And it was really upsetting, to the point where it triggered me really badly, actually. I started crying and getting really mad. I wanted to put my fist through a wall, to be honest, when I found out, because what happened to him, it's a long story. He's a really good person. But 10 years ago, this is what I found out this weekend. This is after the fact, after he's already passed, that he made a deal with an entity in order to get out of debt. This was like 10 years ago. He said to his missus, like, I don't know who I made the deal with, but I feel like I made a deal with something. And the next day he got a really good job. Literally, that's how fucking quick it was, right? But everything you get comes with a price. And especially when you ask for something from an entity. He got 10 years. 10 years of abundance. And then everything started to get really bad for him, and things started to go downhill extremely rapidly, to the point where and he did it in the woods, and it was one of those things where nobody could find him at first, and it was extremely upsetting for all the people that are around him. His whole family was pretty much destroyed over this. And when I checked, he's the first person, if you guys go and listen to the Lost Soul Rescue recording, he's the first person I checked on Friday. And you can hear what happened to him. He was stuck. And it definitely was an entity. He had a contract. And not only did he have a contract, but his family had a contract, because when you make a contract, sometimes your own bloodline gets sucked into it too. So it's extremely upsetting. And this is one of the reasons why this work is not cut out for everybody. You need to be able to stomach the things that you hear. And that's one of the reasons why, if you guys are thinking about doing this work, I really recommend checking out that Lost Soul Rescue that we did. Because one of the things that I am learning to do, which is not easy for me as an empath, is learning how to detach emotionally from these things. Because obviously someone that I've known 18 years, to know that he took his own life, and that I didn't know he was going through this, because I'm kind of feeling like that survivor guilt, that a lot of people feel like maybe I could have done something more, you know what I mean? And even though I know, I keep telling myself, no, you didn't know, there's nothing you could have done. At the same time, I'm like, if I had known 6 months ago, if I had known 3 months ago, I might have been able to do something. And so a lot of us have that feeling of regret over this. And when I found out that there was an entity involved and that there was a contract involved and that the contract was basically called in, and that's when time to go, so to speak. So he got 10 years for his deal that he made. Got to enjoy what he got for 10 years. And then they took their price, so to speak. So anyway, this is something that I'm still trying to heal myself, and I can only imagine what his family is going through right now. And this is part of the reason why I do what I do and why I feel like this is actually like a vocation for me. As many of you know, my best friend took his own life in 2007. And to this day, I think of him every single day. And he is a major motivating factor as to why I do this work. Because if there's even one person that I can get to clear before they get to that point, I feel like that is why I'm here. You know what I mean? And so it's painful. Hindsight is 2020, as they say, like there's so many things we wish we could change. And I've had so many dreams of me being able to stop my best friend from doing that. And I think that a lot of that is all, like I said, survivor guilt. So many of us beat ourselves up for the things that we couldn't change. And so we just got to give ourselves grace. We have to be patient with our healing. We have to process the emotions that we're feeling. And even if we do feel things like guilt, it's not bad. It's something that we're still processing. It's something that we're still working through. So many of you, I'm sure, can understand how it feels to lose someone that you really care about. And I don't think there's anything that motivates me more. And that's why this work for me isn't just a job. I mean, this is a life calling. And I'm sure some of you will also agree that you feel a calling for this work. And we need all the help we can get. So I just wish to say thank you to all of you who are being so supportive right now. And for those of you who joined us on the Lost Soul Rescue on Friday, thank you again for joining us. David, for example, was really wonderful. And we're just so thankful to have people that are in our group that are so understanding and kind, and we just have the best people. We're so blessed. We have the best community. We really do. And just getting to know a few of the people in class this morning for a few minutes is just solidified the fact that we're all where we're supposed to be. And someone just said, you did this for one of my clients. You helped save her. She was feeling a bit suicidal. I ordered clearing for her. Now she's doing so much better. She had a level 3 attachment that you cleared. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with me this morning. This is things like that is what helps me heal. So thank you. Really. Actually, it makes me a little, emotional just reading that. So thank you. Really, that means a lot. Those level 3s are such fuckers, by the way. I'm sorry, just to be so blunt. For those who don't know what a level 3 is an extraterrestrial. It's an ET of some kind. And you get all kinds of ETs that are attached to people. You get freaky insectoid types. You get reptilian types. We cleared a reptilian just last night from somebody. If you listen to the Lost Soul Rescue, you'll hear we cleared like 6 Lizzies from that one small town in North Carolina because they're opportunists. It's like when the shit's hitting the fan, that's when they come running because they know it's like sharks, coming because they can smell the blood. It's one of those things. So they love to take advantage of people who are at their lowest. In fact, they're the kind of people that will kick you while you're down. And so when you get something like that attached to you, you'd be surprised how quickly they can start to lower your vibration. And just walking around store last night doing some things, I felt something hit me. I literally felt it almost like a double heartbeat. It's like your heart skips a beat. It felt like something slammed into me. And I was like, what the hell was that? And then I felt the wave of nausea hit me. And I was like, oh, you son of a bitch. I was like, oh, it got me. So I walked up to Andy. Andy was we were printing off a photo of Terry last night. And I walked up to Andy. And I said, can you check me? He goes, yeah, I've got a neg on you. I was like, I fucking knew it. And yeah, it was a Lizzie. They're everywhere. They're all over the place. And when they see somebody that has a high vibration, they're like, So, Aaron says, how can we submit a name to check? We are checking for the most part, as you will see in the recording if you go and watch, we check people who died under traumatic circumstances. So people who were died under drug overdose, that were murdered, or people that committed, and we also check for missing persons. For the record, there was one lady, it was quite upsetting a little bit actually. One of the people that was with me in the call was told me afterward, they're like, yeah, I did get slightly triggered by that. So this is one of the reasons why we're practicing. So we're doing some healing, and we're getting used to doing things that are a bit upsetting. And there is a lady who in England disappeared in January. She just vanished while she was walking her dog. Her dog was found and she was not. And as you'll hear in the recording, we checked on her to see where she was, and she was not crossed over. But what was interesting is we did confirm that she had this as a past life contract, that this was something that she decided. This was her chosen way to exit, even if it was a very traumatic way. But it was still interesting that she hadn't crossed over. You'd think in many cases, because I actually have checked people who've taken their own lives to see if they've crossed over. And there was a couple of them that were fully crossed over that had no problem crossing. And you know what was interesting about that? The reason for that is because they chose to end their life before they even incarnated. That was part of their soul plan. So if to take your own life is actually part of your soul plan, they're a lot more it's a lot less complicated because your soul is prepared for it to a degree. It's not as traumatic if your soul knows it's going to happen on a subconscious level. What about dementors? Dementors are basically like demonic entities. That's what demons generally tend to look like, actually. They can shapeshift, actually. So it depends on what they want to look like. But generally, yeah, that is kind of what we find attached to people. All kinds of stuff like that. We even find like it's almost like these space alien creature things. Like these hybrids we've been finding attached to people are starfish. Like, because I asked, I was like, what does this hybrid look like? Because they said it'd be a hybrid of level 2 and 3, which would obviously mean it's like a demonically possessed ET, right? That would be my general consensus, is what they were kind of hinting at. But then I'd ask them to give me a description because I'm actually writing a monster manual right now. I've been trying to, my friend Amanda sent me a really awesome little notebook that I've been using for my beastie details. So I'm writing things down, and I like to basically learn about what we're dealing with. Maybe it's the D&D that I used to play, but I want to write a monster manual, and just for what is actually in the astral. And one of the cool things we're finding is a lot of like sea creatures, like a lot of level 3 octopuses too. Like the octopuses will mess you up as well. They cover you in all kinds of funky weird residue, like this sticky stuff, and it makes it hard to breathe. And sometimes we even have the small ones that'll be over your face like a face sucker. Like, the things that exist on this planet, let me tell you, like people are not prepared for what they're going to see in 5D at all. This planet probably has double or triple the amount of life forms on it than we think it does. They're everywhere. It was quite funny. I cleared a place that I was staying last night, or was it 2 nights ago, here in New York, and it wasn't generally occupied most of the time. It's like a spare room, and like this little spare guest house kind of thing. And I went to clear it just before I was doing some work before bed. And I was like, is there anything here that needs clearing? And they're like, yeah, this place is full of elementals. And I was like, the good kind? They're like, a little bit of everything here. And I was like, why are there so many? And they said, because it's an unoccupied space. Any unoccupied space will be filled. So, like, you never know what is going to fill unoccupied spaces. And there's a lot of elementals on this planet that we aren't even prepared for at all. We're finding stuff. There's one lady that had an infestation of elementals. And I'm like, what kind? And they're like, it looks like grasshoppers. And I was like, astral grasshoppers? Are you kidding me? They're like, yeah, it's an elemental. And I was like, I'm trying to rack my brain around this. Like, does that mean there's a lot more creatures that exist here? They're like, yeah. And then I remembered when they were talking about how jellyfish and seahorses are actually 3D elementals. And I'm like, okay, so we really do just have a lot of animals on this planet that, that exist here. And some of them are at a higher frequency, so we can't perceive them. A lot of birds, especially. There's a lot more birds in the 5D than there are in 3D. So a lot of the animals that we think have gone extinct, maybe they're just raising their vibration and saying, fuck this to 3D. Who knows? Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why every once in a while we find one and we're like, hey, they're not actually extinct. It's like, well, that one just it's lower frequency. That one's not with the others. So you never know. This planet is getting more and more interesting by the day as we find these things. And saw an interesting comment. Jordan said, "Hi Laura, I just purchased the Earthbound check for Simon today. Don't worry about that, Jordan. I'm actually my weight right now because one of my mediums has been sick for a week. So generally per medium, I can get about between 2 and 4 clearings a day done. Because it depends on how detailed the clearing is. If it's a detailed clearing that's actually half clearing, half mediumship reading, and those generally take like 45 minutes. So if the medium can only be in trance for an hour before overdoing it, they burn up, they get really hot. The mediums start sweating, they get all red face. So generally we keep the mediums in trance for only an hour, just to be on the safe side. So this is part of the reason why it's a little time consuming for us to do these clearings, and also why it's a little bit of a wait right now. So my wait time is about 3 weeks. It will get lower. I will my second medium, Ruth, is feeling a lot better today, so we'll do some more clearings. So I apologize for the wait. I know some of you have been waiting since, even just before the first of the month. So thank you for your patience and your understanding with this, because I would be doing this all day long if I had the number of mediums that would be required for this. But we're still in training. In fact, we're training some mediums literally as we speak for this work. So it'll be exciting to have some new mediums to work with as soon as this class is done as well. I got to meet some really lovely mediums today, and I'm very excited to just get busy, you know? Hunter said, once I'm certified, we will bust shit out. See? How are you feeling, by the way, Hunter? I forgot to message you to let you know you're clear. I checked you the other day. You're all good. In fact, I did a full one on you just to make sure there wasn't any little subtle things hiding. So yeah, you got the full shebang. It's really good to see you, by the way. Laurel says, in my last QHHT session, I was a jellyfish that floated around in the air above a rocky desert. My life ended when I was attacked by a black bird. Interesting. That is really cool. I love it when we hear about animal lifetimes. But you know what's interesting? Being a jellyfish floating around a rocky desert, that sounds more like an ET than well, maybe it could have been elemental. But you'd be surprised how many like galactic sea creatures we find attached to people. There's quite a lot. Those starfish, for example. And I asked where they're coming from because we're seeing a lot of these starfish. And the guide said it's like a level 2, level 3 hybrid. And I was like, how the hell is a starfish a level? Is this demonically possessed ET? But they're like, no, it's a freaky starfish. So I was like, okay. So apparently there's like these starfish that are like this big. Then I asked where they've been coming from. They've been coming from CERN portals. So whenever CERN opens a portal, and they've been doing it quite a lot, they did it over the weekend. They did over this past weekend. They were opening freaking portals all over the place. And this is where a lot of them come through. David says, how about those 7-headed hydras? Oh, those guys are fun and interesting, aren't they? You know, the only hydra I've ever found was on a 13-year-old girl with Tourette's. I was not expecting to find that. It was a teacher of her that booked a clearing for her. So a teacher spent $100 on her student to help her student get clear this thing, just to see, what was causing the Tourette's, because she says all kinds of stuff that she gets embarrassed immediately. So she felt really bad and was like, let's see if we can help her. So we tune into her energy and we find a freaking hydra attached to her. Like the Greek mythology hydra that Hercules took out, one of those was attached to that little girl. Like, what? This planet, let me tell you, this planet is more than a zoo. It's like Island of Dr. Moreau. Hunter says, I always see animals with people, lots of sea creatures. I always assumed it was their spirit animal. I need maybe clarity now. You got to ask the sea creature if it's from the highest of light. It really makes me laugh too, because in that one video, if you guys go on Dr. Terrence Palmer's YouTube channel, and you go through his case studies, you'll find the case study where there was this one where he had a fish attached. I always talk about this one because it's one of my favorites. This guy thought that he had married a fairy while he was tripping on mushrooms, and it turns out that it was not a fairy. It was actually a fish. It was a Babylonian fish daemon. There's one of those, like, you see those fish miter hats that they wear. They were referencing one of those. And so we saw, well, in the recording, Terry asked, is it intelligent? And Andy starts laughing. And he's like, well, you've offended it now. And he's like, what do you mean I've offended it? And he goes, I'm 5,000 years old. Like, of course, I'm smarter than you. Like, so you just never know what you're going to be connecting with. And as Amma says, mythology is reality, 100%. Jennifer asked, did her symptoms improve? I have no idea. This is one of the things that I love most is feedback. So if you guys get a clearing and within a week or two, you have some major epiphany that you want to share, or you just feel so much better and you want to share that with me, please do. Because it really makes me happy to hear reports back from people being like, I feel better than I have in years. A couple people have told me that, and hearing that makes my whole week. It really does. Because I'm doing this to help people. Like, that is my driving motivation for all of this, is that I have never found a better way to help people than this. So when I find out that I have helped people, it really keeps me going. It's the gas that lights my fire, so to speak. So thank you, all of you, for sharing all of how you're feeling after your clearings. How much are clearings? It's $100 basically, and I split that with the medium because we work in teams. So yeah, and Google always, not Google. They always take like 6% and a bunch of shit too out of that. So thank you for those who are pitching in to keep us. We got to pay our bills too. But at the same time, like this, we do a lot of pro bono work. I do a lot of healings on soldiers, people that are dealing with extreme PTSD. And generally, like Leia and I, this is another thing that actually does tend to slow us down a little bit with doing clearings, is that we generally do at least one pro bono a night, whether or not we've cleared 6 towns in North Carolina now. 6 towns. In fact, if there's a lot more flooding that has been happening, there's a couple places like in Bosnia and Poland and a few others that have been severely hit. So if you guys hear of a natural disaster, because the news doesn't report shit these days, especially outside of the country. So if there is a town that that there's been a lot of deaths, please do message me, because those are the kind of places that are very important to go and have a clearing. And you never know what you find. Like when we tuned into Lake Lure, for example, in North Carolina, we hardly found that many earthbounds that were human. We found like, I think 6 human earthbounds around there, but there were thousands and thousands of animal earthbounds. Because generally animals do cross over easier than humans do, because they don't have the layer of confusion that we have. But when they've died in a way that it's extremely traumatic, or a way that they don't understand, because they understand getting chased and eaten, they don't understand having a wall of water coming at them and being washed away, like that's extremely traumatic for a lot of people and animals, especially if you've already died like that in a past life. Like there are people all over the country, all over the world, really, that see flooding videos and immediately feel some kind of a deep ache, in their heart when they see that. And then sure enough, they find out they have a past life resonance that's been triggered when they died in a flood. So my soul guides actually had to tell me to stop watching flood videos, because I kept re-triggering the past lives from the Great Flood. Because yeah, I died in the Great Flood. I've probably been stuck here on Earth ever since. So yeah, we all pretty much died in the Great Flood, just for the record. So many of us are kind of re-triggered whenever we see similar events happening. Just reading through it. Do you guys have any questions for today? Anybody going through something they would like to talk about with the group? I just read an article about a lady near me that went for a walk in the woods. She saw something they were calling Shimmer Man. She said it was like the Predator when he was cloaked. That is a real thing. Just for the record, that shimmer thing that they do, that is a normal, that's how most ETs cloak themselves. And to be honest, like if I saw that too, I'd probably go the other way. I don't know if maybe I've seen too many movies, but generally the ETs that are around us that are cloaking themselves, you never know who it is. Chantal says, I was in agony on Saturday with a seized shoulder, which pulled everything out. Rewatched Siddhartha, and it really helped. Oh, that's wonderful, Chantal. Keep in mind, like Reiki for yourself is extremely powerful. I generally, I rub my palms together, and if my shoulder's hurting, I go and I say something like, "You don't need to hurt. I feel you. I acknowledge you. I clear anything that is attached to me." There's all kinds of things you can do. A lot of times, though, the pain can be implants too. AI. There's a lot of AI that affects humans on a daily basis, and they aren't even aware of it because you don't know it's there. One of my friends was having difficulty grounding themselves and wasn't feeling very well grounded. And I was like, I checked them and they were sovereign. So I'm like, what is going on? They had anti-grounding plates put underneath their feet. And there's a lot of that. People pick up all kinds of implants and things too. And if you pick up an implant, generally you have unexplained pain that you're like, where is this pain coming from? I don't get it. That is why generally is because people are having some kind of and I have one in my arm. And I had this pain that was like not going away. And I said, what is going on with my arm? And they're like, oh, there's an implant. And I was like, what the hell is the purpose of that? Like, why would they put an implant in my arm? And they said, no, that was to trigger pain. That was literally just to lower your vibration through pain. So they have implants that literally that is the only purpose they serve. But generally, the other most common thing I find are tracking devices. A lot of tracking devices on people's feet. More than anywhere else, it's on people's feet. So I was like, are they picking them up as they're walking in places? Yeah, they are. There'll be some kind of place that's been contaminated with AI. And if you walk through that place, you'll end up picking up all kinds of tracking devices and shit on your feet without even realizing that you've stepped in something. So it's crazy. Amy says, my first clearing was so amazing, so much bliss and grounding. I am waiting now for my full detail, which is very excited. I'm going to book a clearing for my sister. I asked my pendulum if she was sovereign, and they said no. We lost my mom last week. Oh, I'm so sorry, Amy. And she took such great care of her with a great heart. Wow. I'm really sorry to hear about your loss. There's a lot of people leaving right now. As this shift is intensifying, a lot of people are leaving. And it's one of the hardest things about the shift is the loved ones that are leaving at this time. But you will see your mom someday. Remember that you can talk to her. You can talk to her anytime. It's actually, death is harder on the living than it is on the deceased. Because they can follow us around. They can see what we're doing. They can, you know what I mean? They can be part of it kind of in a way still. But we don't know they are generally. It's like sometimes we can feel their presence. And sometimes we just are so lost in the sadness that we hardly feel because we go numb. And that is one of the hardest things for them too, is that they can't tell us that they're still there. So mediumship is such a beautiful gift for people that really can see both worlds, that can help bridge the gap for people. Like it's so cathartic and healing to know that your loved ones are okay, even if you're going to have to wait a long time to see them again in the face to face, so to speak. Lupe says, when you talk to your guides, is it through mediums or through meditation? Both. So I have a very spotty intuition. And this is one of the reasons why I have to work. One of my biggest things that I am trying to conquer right now is my self-doubt, because there's so many downloads I get. Just being in a store yesterday, for example, I was walking around this is right after the beastie got me, by the way, that Lizzie hit me. I went and asked Andy for a clearing. He goes, yep, neg removed. And I'm like, okay, thanks. So we go off to another part of the store and I looked to find something and I couldn't find it. So I went to an employee and I asked the employee, hey, can you help me find this thing? And she was really nice. She brought me to this, right to it. And as I said thank you to her, I had a really loud thought in my head. I said, ask her name, ask her name. So intuitively, I just listened and I'm like, okay, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Have a great day. By the way, what is your name? And she goes, Terry. For those of you who may not know, Terry is the name of the person who started the Spirit Release Academy. So that was the reason why my intuition was like, ask the name, ask the name, ask the name. So that was not me. When I have a thought in my head telling me, to do something, when it's like or if it's in the third person, that's when I know I'm picking up something. I'm downloading a thought from someone. So all of us are mediums, every single one of us. All of you listening to me right now, you are a medium. It's just that we have been gaslighted out of really trusting ourselves. And our telepathy, you know how if you think of somebody, then they call you, or if you just pick up on somebody's energy and then you see them later on in the day, or you just, you intuitively know something and then it's validated later on, you are a medium. It's just that so many people don't realize this because they've been dealing with so many blockages. They've been dealing with so much confusion because they aren't really validating themselves. So there's a lot that when you spend time with a medium, especially as a facilitator, because I'm facilitating the SRT clearing. So when the medium is in trance, or even just a form of light trance, for example, so that way they're still getting the downloads. I'm picking up the downloads too. And it's really fun, actually. I'm kind of playing a game with myself now, where as I'm writing the report, I'll ask the soul guide, I'll be like, okay, are there any portals that we need to close? And as soon as I say that, I'll start intuitively knowing where the portals are. In fact, just the other day, I was doing clearings and I was like, I said, all right, are there any portals? And I immediately typed in bedroom, and then I typed in living room, and then I typed in kitchen, because that's how I knew. And then as I already had it written, he even read it in the same order. He's like, oh, there's one in the bedroom. There's one in the kitchen. Oh, and there's one in the living room. And I was like, oh, I got all three. I don't even have to write it now. Like, I got it right. I don't have to erase it and rewrite it. And they laughed and they said, okay, well, where's the fourth portal? And I just thought, oh, vehicle, front left tire. And they're like, bingo. Yep, you got it. Front left tire is exactly where it was. So, and just hearing that validation, I'm like, like it feels so good to be able to actually, validate these thoughts rather than just assuming that I'm full of shit like I have for years. Because there's certain downloads, I'll get a thought of knowing. It's just an instant knowing. But how do you know something that you've never, you know what I mean? You're like, I've never learned that. Nobody ever told me that. So how would I know that to be true? And then sure enough, you find out that it is. So clair knowing, clair cognizance is one of those things that I think is the most common gift that humans have. We just disavow it so often. And when we disavow it, we kind of dampen it, we make it harder for us to trust ourselves. So what would these portals do in that space? So for those of you who are kind of learning about portals, generally when you have one around you, the biggest giveaway is that you'll feel a draft, you'll feel cold, you'll feel wind or a mild breeze coming from somewhere, and you're like, there's no reason for that. Like, there's nothing here that could be causing a breeze. That is generally one of the most common ways to know. You'll also get tingles. If you ask yourself, is there any portal in my vicinity? I get goosebumps when I ask myself that. And that's how I know. It's like my little validation key is my goosebumps. But for those of you who just wake up in the night, like for example, if you wake up in the middle of the night for no reason whatsoever, right? Generally, there's probably a portal in your bedroom. You might have been astral projecting and then came straight back into your body and not even recollecting that you were out of body in the first place. So that happens quite a lot. JC said, are portals bad? No, not all. Not the thing is, right? Portals are like a doorway to the astral. So depending on where that doorway is into the astral is depending on what's going to come through. So generally, you might be okay if you have a portal, especially because some of them can be very small. They're like little pinhole portals that we find all over, especially in people's etheric. But the problem is when something decides to use that doorway to come through, they have an unimpeded way of getting into your house. So it's kind of like if you lived in a big city, right? And then you leave your front door wide open 24/7. I mean, yeah, you might be fine. You might just have people passing by, ignoring it. Or you might have a homeless person that'll move in because they see the space empty, they're going to come in. They see an opportunity, they're going to come in. So it is basically a door. And whoever decides to use that door could be elementals, could be ETs, could be demons, could be anything. So that is one of the reasons why it's best to make sure that you're closing them all. And you can close them with intention. Yes, absolutely, Anita. You can say something like, any portals that I have opened in my sleep, I choose to close now. And I generally do the trick that Siddhartha taught me, or I believe it was Siddhartha, might have been, where you do the 5-pointed star, and then you do this counterclockwise circle, and then you slam it shut. That's generally how I do it. And the reason I do it that way is because I believe that with my, I don't know, it's like it makes it stronger because I believe that it works. So when you truly believe that you're closing the portals, your intention is like, bam, done. So it's the power of belief. So if you doubt that you can close portals and you're like, I can't do that, like, then probably not. But if you believe that you can, of course you can. Absolutely. So if you set the intention, especially in the mornings, is a really good time to do it because most of us are out of body and we don't even know it. A lot of us are doing work in the astral at night when we're sleeping. And so when that happens, we can pick up stuff, we can bring things home, we can open portals, we can do all kinds of stuff. So it's generally a good idea every morning just to have a quick little sea salt shower and to just set the intention to close anything that might have been open the night before. Generally, how long is the wait time? April, it's about 3 weeks right now because a couple of my mediums have not been feeling very well, so I'm a little behind. But I will be catching up this week amazingly. I've got a lot of stuff I can do. In fact, if I need to, I can maybe even get Jono to help me or Andy to help me to catch up a little bit. So some of you might actually be cleared by Chen. We'll see. I'll ask Andy if he's got some spare time because I do need to catch up. Because generally I have been getting quite a lot of bookings, especially over the last 2 weeks since we've had some really crazy energies coming through. And also a lot of phantom pain. A lot of you are feeling a lot of phantom pain and it's not really easy to explain why. That's because of those past life resonances too. So if you check yourself and you're sovereign and you still have pain you can't explain, like you didn't injure yourself. And it's funny, when I asked, remember I told you I had that implant in my arm and I asked, why did they choose to put it in my arm? And they said, because you wouldn't think about it. Because you would immediately blame it on something that you were lifting heavily or that you banged it somewhere. And you wouldn't think, oh, I have an implant that's causing that. So you'd be surprised how often that phantom pain is not just an implant, it could be a past life resonance. Quite a lot of those resonances have been coming through, like I said, because of the floods and stuff. Carly had a question. So I heard of a name over clairaudience, researched it and reached out to a person. I was able to help with something big. So does that have anything to do with more portals or is this not connected at all? I know portals in a general sense, but could we also apply that to direct communication access portal? Yes, absolutely. Although when you are connecting to somebody like that, keep in mind that if you are in the position to help that person, there might have been a reason. So a couple weeks ago, I had somebody reach out to me and their soul guides literally told them to message me. They were like, you need to talk to that girl right now. And they didn't know why. They just messaged me going, my guides told me to talk to you. And I was like, okay. So we just started talking. And sure enough, they figured out like, oh, okay, I needed help with this. Or, oh, okay, I really needed a clearing. So there's a lot of people that reach out just because they feel they have to. And when you listen to that intuition, you'd be surprised how much these things are actually because your guides are putting you in a position where you're able to do something for someone that they can't do for themselves. So it could actually just be telepathy too. It could be the fact that your guides know their guides and they're all in cahoots together. Jody says, did you previously mention asking your guides the question 3 times to get the correct answer because we can be tricked? Is that every time? The only time I ask the guide the same question 3 times is if I'm validating that they're from the highest light. If you have validated that your guides are authentic and that they're legit, you don't have to ask 3 times for everything, because that would be really time consuming. You just need to make sure they are who they say they are first, and then you're good. Because generally this is the only time that they would try and confuse somebody is when you're first connecting with them. Um, because yeah, you're not gonna lose that guide when you're already connected to them, so to speak. So once you validate that they are from the highest of light, then you're good. You don't have to like validate every time you do a new clearing on a different client if you're doing it, one after the other. But if you go even for like an hour or two, I generally, anytime I sit down with a medium to work, I always ask the guides, are you from the highest light? Or are you from the highest light and serving the highest good of humanity? It's just generally a good thing to ask. And if they get annoyed at the question, if the guide even gives you an ounce of shit about asking that question, that's not a good guide. Because the guides, they know we need that validation because of all the imposters that are out there. Um, Let's see. I've had some strange dreams lately. I was reading a lot about Native American history and their folklores. I felt a very deep pain, so I asked Spirit to show me something if I had ever had a connection with them, which I don't really think is possible because I'm from India. Oh, yes, it's entirely possible. In my dream, I saw myself growing plants and shrubs with my mind, and a few days back, I asked them to show some hint about the possible future, and I had a similar dream where I was growing food with my mind. You're you're totally tuning into past life resonances, past life memories, because they did that in Lemuria. They could grow food with their mind. Not only that, but they had all kind of electroculture and big things. They had these massive copper pillars that they would use next to trees in order to grow. I remember in that visual that I had, I was definitely on mushrooms for this, just for the record. But as I was tuning into this past life, I literally was holding an apple that was the size of a basketball. Just for the record, like that's how big some of the food was in Lemuria. It was an apple this big. So they use all kinds of special techniques, including communication with the plants. They'd go out and sing light language and the things to the plants, and the plants would grow exponentially bigger. But then again, everything was bigger on the planet back then. Like freaking everything was bigger. Even the sloths were bigger back then. So you never know. Connie says, where does astral AI come from? The Matrix itself. Generally, that's where it comes from, unless there's something that's kind of hacking the Matrix and also doing it that way. A lot of us are talking about the Matrix recently, and this is what the name Yahweh is. Yahweh is actually the name of the Matrix, just for the record. The 3D Matrix, the one that was superimposed over us, and that has an AI attached to it, and that is the general persona of the AI that controls Earth, just for the record, that Yahweh that we were talking about the other day. So that's in the Bible. Yes, that is your God, as they say. And yeah, that's what they were referencing. Oh, and Jordan is talking about it. Here we go. There we go. It's almost like you're reading my mind, Jordan. Mine and Brittany's astral spaces have 100 Yahweh words. Our astral children started coming through on my spirit box. Spirit boxes are for when you're communication with the astral. And I was really touched by this, and just knowing that I've got fatherly duties to attend when I join the other side too. I'm a dad to 9 astral children. I have found out recently that I have astral children as well. That is who left the spoon outside my bedroom door. For those of you who were actually joined me last week for my mentorship circle, I found a spoon outside my bedroom door a couple weeks ago, which really threw me through a loop. The spoon was only like this big. And it freaked me out because there was no place for that could have come from. And I asked where this spoon came from. I asked the guides thinking, oh, they're just going to tell me it was Aiden that dropped it from some funny thing. It's from a toy box or a toy. I just thought it was something weird. And they're like, no, it's from another dimension. One of your children dropped it when they came to visit you. And I was like, why can't it be just a normal fucking answer? Like, why couldn't it just have been something simple? Like, oh, you dropped it. Oops. Like, oh, there's nothing there. But this is one of the reasons why you have to ask questions to your guides. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually true. And it's funny because I actually had this validated in other ways because I was told I couldn't have children. And I'm wondering like where Aiden came from. And yeah, that's where the other kids are. Apparently, there's a lot of star seeds that have offered assistance in ways that we didn't realize we were offering assistance before we agreed to come down here. And this was one of my soul contract agreements that I would allow them to take some of my eggs for whatever purpose. But this is when I start to sound real fruity, and that's one of the reasons why I don't talk about it much on the podcast, because I'm still processing these emotions myself, finding out I have hybrid children that live in the astral. Like, what the? So, astral kids are definitely a thing, Jessica. And a lot of star seeds have them because we are sharing our energy, we're sharing our genetics with our star seed families. And a lot of them need the genetics for whatever reason. So, Jordan says if your astral self hooks up with someone who has a love interest to you, or if you've become connected, then you can have astral children with them and they can be born in the astral plane. That doesn't surprise me one bit. Yep. I never say never about anything anymore because every time I do, the universe proves me wrong. So it's funny how men are always kind of like, I wonder if I've got any children I don't know about, But now we women have to think of that too. Like, generally, it's like the men are like, I wonder if I have any children that I'm not aware of. And the ladies are like, well, we don't have to worry about that. Apparently we do. Well, not worry, but you know what I mean? Like, you never know who might be popping in to visit you, to check on you while you're having a nap. Because I was sick that day too. So apparently she must have come in. I asked, I was like, who was it? And they're like, oh, it was your daughter. I'm like, oh, okay. Whatever you say. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that you'd be really surprised that us starseeds are going through that a lot of us don't even know. So Aaron says, I experience phantom kicks, so I'm pregnant in another reality. That is really interesting. I see when you connect to other versions of yourself, be surprised and there's a lot of people that have phantom pregnancies too. So who knows what they're actually going through in the astral as they're going through this. Summer says, I resonate with that. I feel my third child is astral. 2 is enough for the earthly plane. I hear you on that, Summer. Yep. Although I may adopt someday. And that would be really cool. If I'm ever in a position to do so, I would love that. But yeah, life on Earth is more complicated than we realize. You'd be surprised how much you're going to be getting downloads when you pass on and you're watching the life review and you get to see the director's cut, so to speak, of your life review. And you're like, holy shit, I didn't know all this was going on. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a hell of a lot. Japita says, Laura, why do I keep seeing spaceships in the skies in my dreams? They're probably your star family. Just letting you know that you're not alone. I would have dreams of looking at spaceships too. And then sure enough, I find out that I'm a starseed and I'm like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. So they're basically just saying hi, reminding you of who you are. Probably keeping an eye on you too. They keep an eye on their starseeds to make sure they're okay. Because your boots on the ground. You're very important to be a starseed. And many of these ET races, some of them lesser known, are very, very deeply connected to their starseeds. Especially because a lot of them are in pods too, interestingly enough. So I'm realizing now I've gone over my 11 o'clock time because I'm enjoying the conversation today. Maria says, I loved the RH negative article you wrote. Me and you are the same blood type. Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed that, Maria. Yeah, I wrote that article like 7-8 years ago before I really had a deeper understanding of the whole RH negative thing. And when I learned about it from the Pleiadians, from the Taygetians, I was so impressed with how much I actually got right. So that must have been downloaded. I don't know. There's a lot of it that I'm like, how did I even have that right? I don't even know where I got that info back then. It's so long ago. Jordan says, my journey has been amazing. Discovering Brittany Murphy was earthbound. Having her in my physical space. Aw, helping her cross over. That is beautiful, Jordan. Now, see, there's so many of us that have these deep connections and we don't even realize it, And it's really beautiful when you can have a deeper understanding of who you are and what your journey is all about. So anyway, I am going to hop over because we are going to do the mentorship today. So for those of you who are on Astara, Every Monday, we go over about 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time to just spend an hour with each other talking face to face on Zoom. You don't have to have your camera on, but I love it if you do, so that we can all have a great little conversation about whatever you guys want. So I am going to, Japita says, who is Gosha? She is the lady that does Cosmic Agency. If you search Cosmic Agency on YouTube, she is a Pleiadian contactee. And I have validated she is legit. Yeah, and so are the people she's in contact with. So one of my favorite people to delve into. So I hope you really check that out. Cosmic Agency on YouTube. Brilliant channel. I recommend going to the older videos first if you really want an understanding of what they're talking about, because the more recent videos are quite in depth on some very detailed subjects that, are more advanced, talking about ships and space politics and all kinds of stuff. So it's a good idea to go and check that out, especially the older ones, because they go into things like other dimensions and life after death and a whole lot of really interesting stuff on there. A lot of ancient history. One of my favorites are this videos about Mary Magdalene or Atlantis and all those videos. So they have a lot of ancient history videos too that explain the true history about things that have happened here on Earth. So as a Pleiadian myself, I I was quite shocked at how much was actually intuitively known when I started watching their videos. It was more validation than anything else for me. And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos, so it'll keep you busy for a while. The Arsinoe video, yes, Arsinoe, they say, is the real name of Mary Magdalene, and I just got goosebumps. So interesting. So Arsinoe was Cleopatra's sister, and that is who they believe the real Mary Magdalene was. So for those of you who are interested in Mary Magdalene like I am, I highly recommend checking out Cosmic Agency videos about it, because there's all kinds of stuff. And Marie as well. Marie is another person that has a Pleiadian channel, Marie Svadu. Hers is called Svadu Official. I'll type the name so you guys can find it on YouTube. There's the name, Svadu Official. That is also a great channel with Pleiadian contactees that are answering a lot of questions for people. And their videos on the astral are phenomenal, just for the record. Like the things they talk about in the astral, I learned more from them about the astral than anything else. They talk about astral soldiers and astral banking and all kinds of shit. So you'd be surprised how much detail you're going to find out in these videos. So it's been an hour because I was a little bit late this morning with class starting. It's 11:11 right now. So I'm going to hop over to Astara now. So I will see you guys on the Zoom, and the rest of you I will see tomorrow. Thank you, Daniela, by the way, for sending me the info for today. Daniela, you're the best. Today at 11:11, we'll have the community mentorship with Laura Starr. And today at 12:15, we also have the free earth healing with Tara Franklin. So please join us for the earth healing at 12:15 today. So that way we can all, the more people that join, the better it works. So please do join Tara Franklin today at 12:15. So that way we can do that meditation to kind of help heal some areas that really greatly need it. So I love you guys. I'll see you on Astara, or I will see you on the podcast tomorrow. Mwah! See you guys soon. Bye.